Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mia.
In today's episode, we're diving into a very practical and exciting topic, the job interview for an English teacher position.
That's right. Many of our listeners want to work abroad or teach in international schools. So today, we'll walk through a mock interview step by step.
Exactly. And along the way, we'll introduce some useful idioms and phrases that can make your answers sound more natural and confident. I'll explain those idioms right after we use them, so don't worry if you're new to them.
Perfect. Let's get started. Imagine you're sitting in a professional interview. The interviewer greets you and says, "Tell me about yourself."
Bozzy, Alex, how would a candidate for an English teacher job answer that?
A strong answer could be, "Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is blank, and I'm passionate about teaching English because it allows me to connect with people across cultures. I studied English literature and have been teaching for 5 years. Over time, I've developed a teaching style that focuses on communication, confidence, and creativity."
That sounds professional and warm.
Yes, and you could add an idiom like, "Teaching is not just my job, it's my calling. I always try to go the extra mile for my students."
Oh, I like that phrase, go the extra mile.
Exactly. Let me explain. Go the extra mile means to put in extra effort beyond what is expected. In teaching, it shows that you care about your students' success, not just the minimum requirements.
So if a teacher says, "I go the extra mile for my students," it means they do more than just the basic lessons. They support, motivate, and help them in extra ways.
Correct. That kind of idiom makes the answer memorable and shows your personality. Talking about passion for teaching. What if the interviewer asks, "Why did you choose to become an English teacher?"
Good question. A sample answer might be, "I chose to become an English teacher because I believe language is the key that opens doors. When students learn English, they gain confidence and more opportunities in life. I wanted to be part of that journey."
That's very inspiring.
And you can add another idiom here. For me, teaching English is a chance to pass the torch to the next generation.
Pass the torch? That's interesting. What does it mean?
It means to pass knowledge, responsibility, or tradition to others so they can carry it forward. As teachers, we give students the skills they need to continue learning and achieving.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like teachers are lighting the way for students.
Exactly, Mia.
Strengths and weaknesses. Another classic question in interviews is, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a teacher?
Yes, and this one can be tricky. Let's model a strong answer. Alex as candidate. My strength is building rapport with students quickly. I believe in creating a positive environment where students feel comfortable speaking. For example, I often use games, stories, and real-life examples. On the other hand, one of my weaknesses is that sometimes I spend too much time perfecting lesson plans. I've learned to manage this by setting clear priorities and being flexible.
That's balanced. Not too negative, not too perfect.
Right. And here's a useful idiom for strengths. One of my strengths is that I can think on my feet in the classroom.
Think on your feet. That's a great one.
It means to respond quickly and effectively without preparation. Teachers often need this skill when students ask unexpected questions.
That's true. Teachers need to adapt in the moment.
Exactly. And for weaknesses, you could use the phrase, "a work in progress." For example, "My classroom technology skills are still a work in progress, but I'm improving by attending training sessions."
So instead of sounding too negative, it shows that you're improving.
Yes, it's a positive way to admit weakness.
Talking about experience. Okay, let's say the interviewer asks, "Tell us about your previous teaching experience."
You could answer, I have taught English at both high school and language center levels. In my last position, I worked with students from different cultural backgrounds, which taught me how to adapt lessons for different needs.
That sounds very professional.
To add flavor, you might say, over the years, I've learned that teaching is not a one-size-fits-all job.
Oh, I've heard that phrase, one size fits all.
It means one solution that works for everyone. By saying teaching is not a one-size-fits-all job, you show that you personalize lessons for each student.
That's excellent, because schools want teachers who can adapt.
Exactly.
Handling classroom pressure. Some interviewers might ask, how do you handle classroom stress or pressure?
Yes, that's common. You could say, when challenges arise, I try to stay calm and look at the big picture. If students are restless, I change the activity to regain focus. I remind myself that Rome wasn't built in a day, and progress takes time.
That's a nice idiom. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly. It means that great results take time, and we shouldn't expect instant success. Using that idiom shows patience and wisdom.
And it fits perfectly, because learning a language takes time.
Right.
Talking about teamwork. Another question could be, how do you work with colleagues and school staff?
A good answer? I believe teamwork makes the dream work. Teaching is most effective when we collaborate with other teachers. I share ideas, learn from others, and support new staff.
I like that phrase, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes, it's a popular motivational phrase. It means when people work together, they can achieve great results. It shows you value collaboration.
Closing first part. So far, we've covered introduction, passion, strengths, weaknesses, experience, stress management, and teamwork. That's a lot already.
Yes, and we also introduced idioms like go the extra mile, pass the torch, think on your feet, one size fits all, Rome wasn't built in a day, and teamwork.
These idioms really make the answers stand out.
Absolutely. In the next part, we'll go deeper into teaching philosophy, classroom management, and how to motivate students.
I'm excited for that.
And one more thing, dear listeners. Many of you enjoy our podcast, but we notice you don't always hit the like button or leave comments. Without your support, it's hard for us to stay motivated and keep going the extra mile for you.
Yes, so if you're learning something useful today, please take just a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really keeps us inspired.
Thank you, and we'll see you in part 2. Welcome back, Mia. Before we dive deeper, I want to mention something special. One of our viewers actually left a comment on our last episode. They asked us to create a podcast about job interviews for English teachers. And you know what? That's exactly why we're doing this series today. Oh, that's amazing. I love when our audience shares their ideas. It feels like we're building this podcast together with them. Exactly. And if more people liked and commented, we'd have even more inspiration. Sometimes it feels like we're talking into the void, you know? Yes, but we're here, and this episode is dedicated to that viewer. Let's keep going. The question, why do you want to be an English teacher? So Alex, in a real job interview for an English teaching position, one of the most common questions is, why do you want to be an English teacher? Absolutely. And this question isn't just small talk. Interviewers really want to see your motivation and passion. Right. So if I'm the candidate, I might say, I want to be an English teacher because I enjoy helping students communicate and grow. For me, language is not just about grammar, it's about connection. I want to empower my students to use English to open doors in their lives. Oh, that's beautiful. Now let's enhance it with the phrase. You could say, teaching has always been my calling. I believe education is the key that opens doors to opportunities. Idioms explained by Alex. Calling. This means a deep sense of purpose or vocation. When you say teaching is your calling, it means you're not just doing it for money, but because it feels meaningful. Open doors. This means creating opportunities. English can open doors for jobs, travel, and education. So by using those idioms, the answer becomes stronger and more memorable. Exactly. Interviewers love when your answer feels genuine and passionate. The question, what is your teaching philosophy? Another classic interview question is, what is your teaching philosophy? Oh yes, that's an important one. And it can feel intimidating because philosophy sounds so academic. But really, they just want to know your approach to teaching. Let me try. I might answer, my teaching philosophy is to create a student-centered classroom. I want students to feel safe, motivated, and confident to practice. I believe in active learning, where students do more speaking than the teacher. Very nice. Now let's spice it up with idioms. For example, you could say, I believe in giving students the tools of the trade so they can stand on their own 2 feet. My role is to light a fire in their minds, not just fill a bucket with grammar rules. Oh, that's so powerful. Using idioms makes the answer more vivid. Exactly. It shows you can use language creatively and inspire students at the same time. The question, what is your teaching philosophy? Another big one is, how do you handle classroom management? Because let's be honest, teaching isn't always smooth sailing. Ah, nice phrase, smooth sailing. Oh yes, I used an idiom without realizing. Let me explain it then. Then you've used an idiom correctly. Smooth sailing means things are going easily without problems, like a boat moving on calm waters. In the classroom, though, it's not always smooth sailing. Sometimes students misbehave or they lose focus. Exactly. So if I were answering in an interview, I might say, I set clear rules at the beginning and create a respectful environment. I believe consistency is key. If a problem arises, I address it calmly and fairly. That's solid, but let's add some flavor with idioms. For example, in my classroom, I believe in nipping problems in the bud. If I see negative behavior, I address it early before it grows. At the same time, I use positive reinforcement to keep things running like a well-oiled machine. That sounds impressive in an interview. It shows that you're proactive and organized. Yes, and it communicates confidence without sounding strict or harsh. The question, how do you motivate students? Another one I've heard is, how do you motivate students to learn English? That's an excellent question because motivation is the heart of learning. My answer would be, I motivate students by connecting lessons to their real lives. I also encourage them with positive feedback and celebrate their progress. Perfect. Now let's give it some idiomatic shine. You could say, I always try to meet students halfway by linking English to their interests. I believe in patting them on the back for small successes, because little victories add up to big progress. I love that. It shows you're empathetic and supportive, not just strict about results. Exactly. Interviewers want to see that you care about students as people. The question, how do you handle mistakes in the classroom? And what about mistakes? Interviewers often ask, how do you handle mistakes made by students? Good one, because mistakes are part of learning. I would say, I see mistakes as learning opportunities. Instead of punishing students, I guide them gently to the correct form. That's wonderful. And here's how we can add idioms. I tell my students not to be afraid of making mistakes because every mistake is a stepping stone to success. I encourage them to learn from their slip-ups and keep moving forward. Idioms explained by Alex. Stepping stone, something that helps you move toward your goal, even if it's small. Slip up, a small mistake or error. That's so encouraging. If I were an interviewer, I'd be impressed with that mindset. Yes, it makes you sound supportive, but also realistic. Wow, Alex, we've already covered so much. Motivations, philosophy, classroom management, student motivation, and mistakes. Yes, and remember, all of this came because one of our listeners commented and asked us for this kind of episode. So thank you to that person. Exactly. And we hope more listeners will comment so we can create more episodes based on your needs. Right. And we're not done yet. Next, we'll dive into questions about teaching methodologies and engaging students. That's going to be exciting. Absolutely. Let's continue in the next part. Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deeper into our special episode on English teacher job interviews. If you've been following along, you already know Mia is role-playing as the candidate while I'm guiding the discussion and explaining the idioms and phrases that pop up.
Yes, and it's been fun so far. We've covered introductions, motivation, and teaching philosophy. Now I think we're stepping into something very practical, classroom management.
Exactly. Interviewers often want to know how a teacher keeps the classroom running smoothly, especially when there are many students or different learning levels. So Mia, let's imagine I'm the interviewer again. Are you ready?
Always ready. Fire away.
So Mia, could you tell us how you handle discipline in the classroom and make sure students stay engaged?
Sure. In my teaching experience, I've learned that prevention is better than cure. I try to set clear rules and expectations from day one. When students understand the boundaries, they usually respect them. And of course, I try to keep my lessons engaging because an engaged student is less likely to misbehave.
That's a great answer already, but let's spice it up with some idiomatic expressions.
Okay, I might say something like, I believe in nipping problems in the bud. If a student starts showing disruptive behavior, I address it early before he grows into a bigger issue. At the same time, I also like to keep students on their toes by using interactive activities so they don't drift off or lose focus.
Perfect. Let's pause and explain those idioms. Nip in the bud means to stop a small problem early before it grows. It comes from gardening, cutting a bud before it blossoms. In teaching, it means addressing issues quickly. Keep students on their toes means keeping them alert, active, and ready to participate. And drift off means losing attention or daydreaming. So Mia just used 3 strong idioms that make her answer more colorful and natural. Balancing authority and friendship. So Mia, could you tell us how you handle discipline in the classroom and make sure students stay engaged?
Sure. In my teaching experience, I've learned that prevention is better than cure. I try to set clear rules and expectations from day one. When students understand the boundaries, they usually respect them. And of course, I try to keep my lessons engaging because an engaged student is less likely to misbehave.
That's a great answer already, but let's spice it up with some idiomatic expressions.
Okay, I might say something like, I believe in nipping problems in the bud. If a student starts showing disruptive behavior, I address it early, before it grows into a bigger issue. At the same time, I also like to keep students on their toes by using interactive activities so they don't drift off or lose focus.
Perfect. Let's pause and explain those idioms. Nip in the bud means to stop a small problem early before it grows. It comes from gardening, cutting a bud before it blossoms. In teaching, it means addressing issues quickly. Keep students on their toes means keeping them alert, active, and ready to participate. And drift off means losing attention or daydreaming. So Mia just used 3 strong idioms that make her answer more colorful and natural. Balancing authority and friendship. Now, many teachers struggle with being both approachable and authoritative. How do you strike that balance?
That's such a common challenge. I'd probably say I try to be firm but fair. I don't want to be a dictator in the classroom, but I also don't want to be a pushover. I like to build rapport with my students so they know I'm in their corner, but they also know I won't tolerate nonsense.
Excellent. Let's unpack the idioms. Firm but fair is a phrase meaning you set clear rules but treat everyone equally. Dictator here is used metaphorically, someone too strict or controlling. Pushover means someone who is too soft and easily manipulated. Build rapport means to establish a good relationship built on trust. And in their corner comes from boxing, your supporter who encourages you. It means being supportive of your students. Notice how these idioms instantly make Mia's answer sound more human, more relatable. Dealing with mixed levels. Now, imagine you're teaching a class with students of very different English levels. How would you handle that situation?
I'd say something like, that's definitely a tall order, but not impossible. I usually differentiate tasks, giving easier activities to beginners and more challenging ones to advanced learners. I also encourage peer learning, so stronger students can lend a hand to those who are struggling. That way, nobody feels left out in the cold.
Fantastic use of idioms. A tall order means something difficult to achieve. Lend a hand means to help someone, and left out in the cold means excluded or ignored. That's a perfect way to show interviewers that you can handle mixed ability classes. Cultural sensitivity. Great. One last question in this section. English teachers often work with students from different cultural backgrounds. How do you ensure cultural sensitivity?
I'd answer, I always try to walk a mile in my students' shoes. I remind myself that what seems normal in one culture can be unusual in another. I steer clear of controversial topics and instead create an environment where everyone feels respected and valued. If any misunderstanding pops up, I address it calmly and turn it into a learning opportunity.
Nice. Let's check the idioms. Walk a mile in someone's shoes means to imagine what life is like from another person's perspective. Steer clear of means to avoid. And pop up means to appear suddenly. Again, Mia naturally uses idioms to sound fluent and culturally aware. Reflection. You see, friends, these idioms aren't just fancy decorations. They really help you sound confident and professional. If you drop them naturally into your answers, interviewers will notice.
Exactly. But learners, remember, don't overuse them. If you throw in idioms left and right, it might sound forced. Use them like seasoning in cooking, just enough to add flavor.
Haha, another idiom there. Left and right means everywhere all the time. And yes, seasoning is a nice metaphor.
I can't help it. Idioms are like my secret sauce.
And secret sauce means the special element that makes something successful. Wrap of part 3. So in today's segment, we explored classroom management, balancing authority, handling mixed levels, and being culturally sensitive. Mia used idioms like nip in the bud, keep on your toes, firm but fair, tall order, left out in the cold, walk a mile in someone's shoes, and many more.
Yes, and I hope our listeners are taking notes because these phrases are gold when it comes to sounding natural in interviews.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, everyone, this episode came from one of our viewers who commented and asked for it. So if you have requests, don't be shy. Let us know.
Right. Your comments inspire us to keep creating these conversations.
Now, let's take a short pause here. In the next part, we'll dive into teaching methodology and how to make lessons exciting. Stay tuned. Welcome back, listeners. This is part 4 of our deep dive episode on English teacher job interviews. If you've been following from the beginning, you know the drill. Mia plays the candidate, I play the interviewer, and together we unpack her idiomatic, natural-sounding answers.
Yes, and it's been a wonderful journey so far. We've covered introductions, motivation, and teaching philosophy. Now I think we're stepping into something very practical, teaching methodology.
Teaching methodologies. Every school has its own teaching philosophy. If we ask you, what is your preferred teaching methodology and why?
I'd say, I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach. Different students have different learning styles. Some thrive on visuals, others prefer hands-on activities, while some excel through listening and discussion. So I try to keep my methods flexible. Sometimes it's communicative teaching, sometimes it's task-based learning, and sometimes it's just storytelling. My goal is always to meet students where they are.
Excellent. Let's look at the idioms. One size fits all means something that works for everyone, though in reality it rarely does. Thrive on means to do really well in a certain environment. Hands-on means practical, involving active participation. Meet students where they are means adapting to their current level, not forcing them into something too advanced. This shows flexibility, something interviewers love. Lesson planning. Good. Now, how do you usually plan your lessons?
I'd explain. When I design a lesson, I start with the end in mind. I ask myself, what do I want students to walk away with? From there, I map out activities step by step like building blocks. I also keep a plan B up my sleeve in case technology fails or the activity doesn't click. Preparation is key, but so is adaptability.
Perfect. Idioms here, start with the end in mind means begin planning by knowing your goal. Walk away with means what students should remember after class. Building blocks means step-by-step foundations. Up my sleeve means having a hidden backup plan. Doesn't click means something doesn't work or connect. These idioms show both structure and flexibility, a strong teaching trait. Student engagement. What about keeping students motivated and engaged?
I like to think outside the box. If one activity doesn't work, I shake things up with games, role plays, or debates. I also try to give students ownership of learning. For example, I let them choose topics for presentations. That way, they feel invested. I've found that if students have skin in the game, they bring their A game.
Great idiomatic answer. Think outside the box means to be creative. Shake things up means to make changes for freshness. Ownership of learning isn't an idiom, but it's a powerful phrase. Skin in the game means having personal involvement. Bring their A game means to perform at their best. This shows innovation and motivation, exactly what schools look for. Technology in the classroom. In today's world, technology is everywhere. How do you use it in your teaching?
I see technology as a double-edged sword. It can either be a powerful tool or a huge distraction. I use it to enhance learning, interactive whiteboards, language apps, and even online quizzes, but I never let technology run the show. At the end of the day, it's just a tool, not the teacher.
Spot on. Idioms here, double-edged sword means something with both benefits and risks. Run the show means to take control. At the end of the day means ultimately, when all is considered. Notice how Mia sounds professional yet down to earth. Handling feedback. Teachers often receive feedback from both students and supervisors. How do you handle it?
I welcome feedback with open arms. Even if criticism stings at first, I try not to take it personally. Instead, I see it as food for thought and a chance to grow. After all, nobody has a monopoly on wisdom, and we can all learn from each other.
Beautifully put. Idioms here, with open arms means to accept warmly. Stings means hurts emotionally. Food for thought means something to seriously consider. Monopoly on wisdom means thinking you're the only smart one, which Mia avoids. That answer shows maturity and openness, a big plus in interviews. Mock final interview question. Okay, Mia, final question. Why should we hire you as our English teacher?
I believe I can hit the ground running. I bring not just knowledge, but also passion for teaching. I know how to keep students on track, even when the going gets tough. I'm not claiming to reinvent the wheel, but I do add my personal touch, energy, empathy, and enthusiasm. Teaching is not just a job for me, it's where my heart lies.
Powerful closing answer. Idioms here, hit the ground running means to start effectively from day one. On track means progressing correctly. When the going gets tough means when things are difficult. Reinvent the wheel means doing something that's already been done unnecessarily. Where my heart lies means something you truly love. That's the kind of answer that seals the deal in an interview. Conclusion. And that brings us to the end of this mega episode on English teacher job interviews. We've gone through every stage from self-introductions to classroom management, teaching methodologies, lesson planning, student engagement, technology, feedback, and even a final hiring question.
And along the way, I used dozens of idioms and natural expressions, while Alex explained them step by step.
Exactly. We have followed that Mia used idioms, not me. That way you can see how a real candidate might sound in an interview.
Right. If you're preparing for your own teaching interview, you don't have to memorize all of these at once. Start small. Pick 2 or 3 idioms you like and practice them until they come naturally.
Yes, because the goal isn't to sound like a dictionary. The goal is to sound confident, clear, and authentic.
And remember, interviews are a two-way street. You're not just answering questions, you're also deciding if the school is the right fit for you.
Nicely said. Two-way street means it goes both ways.
Haha, I just can't stop. Idioms are my bread and butter.
And bread and butter means something essential or main source of income. See, we just can't help ourselves.
Exactly. So, to our listeners, thank you for sticking with us through this long session.
And remember, this episode came from a viewer comment. So if you want more role plays, maybe for other professions like doctors, engineers, or managers, let us know.
We're here because of you. Your comments fuel our creativity.
Well said. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep shining in your interviews.
Goodbye, everyone.